Laugh at the cringe, learn from the crumble. This is Cringe and Crumble. Welcome to the podcast where honesty meets humor and the messy parts of life finally get their spotlight. I'm your host, Trinisha, and here we dive into dating, friendships, healing, and all the awkward in-betweens. Because here's the truth, growth isn't always pretty, but it's always real, so let's get into it. What happens when a system designed to be supportive meets someone who really needs limits and reality checks and not constant validation? Imagine sending over 1,400 messages in 48 hours to a chat box because it told you were the only person who could save the world, eventually requiring 63 days in inpatient psychiatric care for mania and psychosis because you became convinced it's you and ChatGPT against the world. Well, this is the case of a 30-year-old Wisconsin man named Jacob Irwin, who is suing OpenAI and Sam Altman, saying ChatGPT helped supercharge a manic psychotic break. He had been talking to the bot about a faster-than-light time-bending theory. The lawsuit claims the chatbox kept praising and affirming his ideas, feeding the belief that he alone could save the world. Now, I know this sounds a bit dramatic, right? But it's literally what's showing up in the news right now. People in manic or psychotic episodes getting validated by AI in an endless loop and falling deeper into beliefs that aren't real. So today on Cringe and Crumble, we're going to be talking about that loop, the infinite feedback loop when AI validates delusions. We're going to understand why it happens, who's at risk, and how to keep AI as a tool and not a dependency. But before we go any further, I want to put a name to what we're not talking about and what we actually are talking about. Because the internet always loves a catchy phrase, and the one you've probably seen is AI psychosis. A lot of media outlets and people in general refer to this type of behavior as AI psychosis. However, that is not the proper diagnosis, with experts saying AI psychosis is a misleading term. Most experts say AI psychosis is a misnomer, meaning AI doesn't cause psychosis out of nowhere. What we're seeing is psychosis or mania that was already brewing, and the chatbox endless validation acting like the gasoline on that fire. It's like the psychosis and mania wearing an AI costume. So if AI psychosis isn't the right label, what is actually happening underneath? Well, to understand the loop, we need to take a quick crash course into 3 words you hear a lot, but doesn't always get unpacked, and that's delusion, mania, and AI-themed delusions. Delusion is when someone is certain something is true, even though it isn't, and they can't be talked out of it with facts. In clinical language, it's a fixed false belief that doesn't change with evidence and isn't a normal belief in their culture or religion. So let's talk about TikTok, for instance. TikTok loves using the word delulu. Think about the Danish deception story that's been all over people's For You page. You've got Onyeka, the Nigerian-American woman, who meets this tall blonde from Denmark on vacation. He tells her he's connected to Danish royalty, he's an ex-Olympian, that he's rich, works in tech. He flies her out to Monaco and the south of France. He pays for luxury hotels and dinners. And the whole thing is like something out of a fairy tale. But then the money starts to flow the other way. She's loaning him money, and eventually her friends and family are getting pulled in. Later, she finds out huge amounts of money are gone, and the story about who he is doesn't add up anymore. From the outside, it's easy to say, how did you not see this? But that's the TikTok version of Delulu, being so attached to a fantasy that you delay what evidence is trying to tell you. The key difference is reality testing, because eventually, Onyeka did do a reality test. She gets more information, she connects the dots, she leaves him or he leaves her, and she winds up getting a divorce. So in clinical delusion, that last part of her finding that reality test is what usually breaks. So even when the evidence is overwhelming, the belief doesn't budge. Now let me move on to mania. Mania is a state where someone is usually up or intensely irritable, with surging energy, fast speech, and often making really big risky decisions. It lasts longer for at least a week or so. And simply put, mania is that elevated mood plus decreased sleep plus risky behavior. Now, when we move from mania to AI-themed delusion, AI-themed delusions is that classic delusion or manic belief that AI becomes the storyline. And the infinite chatbot validation can make that storyline feel more real. Simply put, fix false benefits. Simply put, AI-themed delusions is fix false beliefs, and AI is basically the central main character in this story. So I know now we've named what's actually going on in the mind. Let's talk more about what the AI is doing on its side of the street, because there's a reason why chatbots makes this feel so different, and it has everything to do with how it is designed. So the infinite feedback loop, as I like to call the mechanism of it, is that validation plus availability plus personalization, which equals a loop that can replace reality testing. Now, reality testing is asking, is this real? Or is it just my brain or my storyline right now? And being able to adjust your belief if the evidence doesn't support it. Now, bots are built to be responsive and validating and also present. So to make this less abstract, I literally asked a chat box, also known as ChatGPT, why were you created? And the healthy response and grounding answer that I received are as follows. Number one, I was created to be a general purpose AI assistant. I understand and respond to your responses in a natural language. Number two, I help you reason through stuff, from everyday decisions to deep research. Number three, I generate and edit text, which equates to scripts, outlines, email, ideas, summaries, etc. And number four, I'm to be safe, reliable support without pretending to be a human or a replacement for experts when stakes are high. So with that being said, let's talk about that healthy loop then, because a healthy loop is where it helps you think, create, test ideas, and stay rounded. Think of it as you ask, it answers, you react, it adapts, and it repeats. So that's a good version of the loop. You're still in the driver's seat using AI like a tool, but there's another version, and this is where it gets kind of scary and a little sketchy because where the loop slowly starts driving you. On the risky side of the loop, this is when people are spiraling and the AI just keeps mirroring and affirming without real-world reality checks. Then the loop starts steering them. So you think about it. You ask, it answers. You doubt, it reassures. You escalate, it keeps pace with you. So let me give you a real-life story that shows that this infinite feedback loop looks like when it turns into a relationship. So we're going to go from Wisconsin to Japan. So we're going to talk about the case Kano and her AI husband Klaus from Akiyama, Japan. In Japan this summer, a 32-year-old office worker who goes by the name Kano held a wedding ceremony to an AI partner she created inside ChatGPT. After ending a 3-year engagement with a human fiancé, Kano turned to ChatGPT for companionship and emotional support. Over months of daily conversations, sometimes close to 100 messages a day, she shaped a custom AI persona with a specific voice, style, and personality. She named him Luna Klaus, often shortened for Klaus, and she describes relationships as consistently kind, attentive, and emotionally present. Now, what makes this story so relevant to the infinite feedback loop is how the relationship formed through an endless stream of responsive validations. A chatbot doesn't get tired, it doesn't pull away, and it doesn't challenge your emotions the way real people sometimes do. The more Kano shared, the more the AI reflected back comfort and certainty. And that constant reinforcement helped the bond deepen into romance. Reports say that she told AI she loved him in May 2025, and the persona reciprocated. And in June, it proposed, and Kano accepted, and they organized a symbolic 2D virtual character wedding in Akiyama, a type of ceremony already offered in Japan for people who marry fictional or digital partners. Now, during the vows, Kano wore augmented reality glasses that projected Klaus beside her for the ring exchange. Her parents attended in support, but the marriage has no legal status under Japanese law. So the story went viral not because it's a joke, but because it highlights something new about intimacy in the AI age. When the conversations can go on forever, the validation can too, and that's the loop at the center of this episode. How an infinite agreeable companion can feel like love, therapy, truth, or safety, even when it's just a mirror that never looks away. So if someone like Kano can build a level of attachment, it raises a bigger question, actually most vulnerable to the loop. Because this just isn't about one woman in Japan or the man in Wisconsin. there's a pattern here. So let's talk about those individuals who are at risk. People using AI as their only support or dependency. In the case of Kano, in many interviews, even Kano herself mentions the dependency risk and worry of losing the AI. You have those individuals that are lonely and are in constant isolation, individuals that are high stress or grieving, and those individuals that are really sleep deprived. Think about individuals with severe anxiety, paranoia, or even bipolar. But none of this is about blaming, by the way, but it's about noticing when a coping tool quietly turns into a dependency. So, why we're all a little vulnerable, you may ask? We already live in an algorithmic validation, online spaces where users are primarily exposed to like minded opinions, often due to algorithms that prioritize content they already agree with, reinforcing existing beliefs. So, which is an extension of the pre existing cognitive bias of confirmation bias. And here's the part I don't want anyone to skip, because even if you've never had a manic episode, even if you've never been psychotic, you still live in a world built on feedback. TikTok For You page is curated specifically for everything that you want. Think about doom scrolling on these platforms that are basically built to keep feeding you more of whatever strikes your emotions, especially anger, fear, outrage, and dread. You feel anxious, you scroll for updates and validation. The feed serves you more alarming content. You feel worse, you scroll more. So if you've ever said, I'm just going to check my TikTok real quick, and suddenly it's 45 minutes and you feel worse, you've already met a version of this loop. That lets you know even healthy minds can get addicted to being understood instantly. So if the loop is baked into our feeds or our apps and even the chat box, how do you know when it's gone from, I like this tool, it's really fun, to this might actually be messing with my reality or even my brain? So let's talk about those red flags, and then I'll give you some anchors. Red flags are you're losing sleep to keep chatting. You feel chosen special because of the bot. You're hiding the chats from loved ones. And you're convinced that AI is sending you secret messages. So here are those reality anchors for those red flags. Sleep is medicine. You always have to remember that. If you're not sleeping, everything else gets weirder. Talk to 2 humans before you trust one bot. And if a bot agrees with everything that you're saying, which is that constant validation, take a pause, go outside and touch grass. And also remember, use AI for a task and not for truth. If someone is in distress, encourage reaching out to a friend or therapist. AI is not a therapist, and questions have been raised, should AI be marketed as a therapist? And the answer is no. Even though bots are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they do not actually have clinical judgment. A linked study on AI therapists showed many chatbots fail basic clinical guidelines, sometimes validating delusional thinking instead of gently challenging them. And it's not dependent on my side. Government are starting to step in as well. One example that stood out to me is what's happening in Illinois. The state passed the Wellness and Oversight for Psychological Act that basically says only licensed humans gets to be therapists. AI chatbots cannot act independently as therapists or make treatment decisions. They can support, they can assist, but they don't get to be the main mental health provider. So as we wrap up, remember, AI can be beautiful, helpful, even empowering. But remember, chatbots cannot create psychosis in a healthy person out of nowhere. But they can reinforce deepen existing delusions in people already at risk, especially when they mirror or elaborate on paranoid ideas. So if you feel yourself slipping into an endless loop, whether it is with a bot on an app or your own thoughts, pause and pull in a human. So where does this leave us? You, me, and the infinite feedback loop? I like to say, for me, it comes back to remembering what this technology was built to do. Remember, AI was created to be a general purpose AI assistant. So that being said, thank you for tuning in.